is the Government Week in Review for the week ending Friday, July 28, 2023. I am Chrisanne Mitchell. In the headlines, GDB disperses more than $1 million on the Enhanced Direct Access project. Details of this and other stories after the break.
Prepare for hurricane. Prepare for hurricane. Make sure you have your radio and your batteries too. Waterproof flashlight candles will do. Tin stuff, garbage bag, first aid kit. Come on people, make sure you have it. Clean water in a container and a hurricane plan. Hear me no man.
Hurricane damage is beyond your control. Surviving the aftermath is up to you. Have a hurricane plan. It can save your life and your family too.
Prepare for hurricane. Your hair, prepare for hurricane.
Welcome back. The Grenada Development Bank has approved and disbursed more than $1 million for Output 4 of the Green Climate Fund Finance Enhanced Direct Access project for the Eastern Caribbean. The project is piloted in 4 Caribbean countries. Grenada launched the project in 2022. Output 4 captures the Climate Adaptation Revolving Fund for vulnerable properties such as households and MSMEs. Properties that are vulnerable to climate change can benefit from a maximum $200,000 EC loan at an interest rate of 2% and other concessionary terms. Chriselle Benjamin Jerome, Communications Officer at the Grenada Development Bank, explained the benefits of this loan financing option.
That loan would allow them to remedy climate risk in their properties. And when we speak about properties, we're speaking about buildings in particular. All in all, the revolving fund for climate adaptation is to ensure that your property can withstand a Category 3 hurricane at least. So with that fund, you will be able to undertake projects such as, or that relates to, renewable energy, energy efficiency, structural adjustment. So we're speaking about if you're having problem with your roof or flooring, pillars, that kind of things. If it is that you may need some form of vector and health control, such as window screens, door screens, septic tank systems, water management. Maybe you would like to install water tanks depending on your location. If it is that you are plagued with frequent water interruptions or simply would like to get into rainwater harvesting, if you want to go ahead and implement, or I should say construct a cistern at your home, you can look at the EDA for that fund.
Benjamin Jerome said a vulnerability criteria is in place for applicants and must be met for eligibility. These include being a homeowner, business owner, being employed, among others.
We'll not just be looking at the property itself, but the conditions of the applicant that speaks to vulnerability, whether it is they have the means to receive financing from another institution or commercial financing, as the case may be. We would of course look at the debt service ratio. We'd also look to determine whether that applicant is part of the frontline employee or maybe essential workers such as nurses, police officers, that kind of thing. So there is an entire list.
More than 30 applications have so far been approved. The Grenada Cooperative Bank has risen above the period of Great Depression and other challenges to be the largest bank in Grenada and the 3rd largest in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. That's according to Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Dr. Timothy Entwine, who delivered the feature address at Wednesday's launch of the bank's book, By the Hands of Grenadians. The book tells the tale of the bank's journey from its inception 91 years ago and highlights the challenges faced by each managing director and the decisions that were made to set the institution back on track. It also speaks of the bank's most recent milestone, the acquisition of the assets and liabilities of First Caribbean International Bank, which moved it to an asset base of $2.4 billion. Governor Entwine paid homage to those who toiled from past to present to get the bank to the place it is now.
I commend By the Hands of Grenadians to every Grenadian and to anyone interested in Caribbean history, banking, and economic development. And I even spied a bit of central bank history in there. The characters. Indulge me, I'm going to be about 15 minutes, so I've taken about 5, just to let you know. As I pored over the character sketches of the stalwarts, I was enthralled by the story of their struggles and strides to establish and grow the bank against the backdrop of Grenada's often stormy political climate. The trials and triumphs of these larger-than-life characters kept me invested. The sheer grit and ingenuity of W. Julian, and I see Michael is here. The escapades of plucky S.A. Francis. The selfless service of Samuel Brathwaite. The late, great Gordon Knocky Steele, who modernized the bank and brought it into the information age. And the retired great Richard W. Duncan, characterized in the book as a pragmatist as well as a strategist, page 159, who led the bank into the Premier League of banks in the ECCU. Not bad at all for the penny bank.
Managing Director Larry Lawrence is pleased to be a part of the history, the chronicles of the bank's story.
Readers should consider By the Hands of Grenadians, a tale of commitment, fortitude, and leadership. The bank has been on an arduous journey from its inception. The founding fathers heard the plight of the working-class plantation workers who could not afford to save, purchase property, or even educate their children. These noble men yielded to the call by taking the responsibility of coming together to establish a bank for and on behalf of the people. As the bank celebrates its 91st year of existence, we should be cognizant of the fact that it is our collective responsibility to ensure the viability and longevity of this national icon for future generations of Grenadians. Encapsulated in this book, readers will be given a brief overview of the bank's story, its histories, and the Grenadian pioneers who contributed to its continued existence.
Finance Minister Honorable Dennis Cornwall applauded the bank's leadership over the years. He commended its commitment to be a beacon of hope and support for many Grenadians.
This remarkable milestone is a true testament of the bank's resilience and adaptability and underscores the trust and confidence that generations of Grenadians have placed in our homegrown institution. The Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited has not only been a financial establishment, but also a pillar of support, providing opportunities for growth, fostering entrepreneurship, and empowering of our citizens. It has stood by the people of Grenada during moments of prosperity, navigating us through the times of economic challenges. Your dedication to preserving the bank's history and sharing its journey is truly commendable. It is my genuine hope that this commemorative book will serve as an inspiration to future generations, highlighting the spirit of Grenadian unity and resilience, and reminding our people of the power of commitment, fortitude, and leadership.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Fisheries and Cooperatives boasts of having over 60,000 plants available for sale for the 2023 plant distribution season, encompassing a diverse selection of economic, ornamental and herbs and spice plants. This was revealed at the launch of the 2023 season on Thursday. Karima Lewis has more in this report.
In spite of the challenges faced in weather conditions, soil procurement, labor, and sourcing scion material and seeds for propagation, the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Fisheries and Cooperatives has launched the 2023 plant distribution season with a total of 65,319 plants available for sale at subsidized costs. The available plants consist of a diverse range including over 9,000 nutmegs, 11,000 cocoa, 6,000 3,000 cinnamon, 3,000 cloves, 5,000 pimento, 3,000 mangoes, 1,500 coconuts, 1,000 avocados, 400 breadfruits, 5,500 ornamental plants, 7,000 minor fruits, and 1,700 minor spices. Minister of Economic Development, Planning, Tourism, ICT, Creative Economy, Agriculture and Lands, Fisheries and Cooperatives, Honorable Lennox Andrews, emphasized the importance of government's contribution towards creating a ready market and maintaining fair prices in the industry for the benefit of farmers.
The theory also says that government, being a facilitator of economic activity, can also assist the farmer with inputs, assist the farmer with his inputs. So the government can provide the farmer with his plantlets at a very low cost, at a very low price.
Alison Haynes, Senior Agronomist within the Ministry of Agriculture and Lands, Fisheries and Cooperatives, and Manager of the Marabou Propagation Station, announced that there will be a supplementary supply of planting material available after the distribution period spanning from September to December. Ms. Haynes further disclosed that this year has seen a notable rise in the propagation of spice plants, thanks to the Ministry's renewed emphasis on spices, which are intended to support both the National Spice Replanting Program and the National Spice Planting Day. Farmers were reminded of the significance of providing proper care and attention to the propagated plants, as this will significantly impact their quality and yield.
By using the correct planting distances to establish their fields, scouting your fields regularly to monitor for pests, adequately irrigating the plants, and providing the correct nutrition for adequate growth and development of the plants. Taking care of the plants will ensure that Grenada continue to lead in the production of high-quality spices in volumes required by the local and export markets. And most importantly, taking care of the plants will guarantee that we have access to nutritious fruits to help build a healthy nation.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Aaron Francois, stresses that the purpose of providing subsidies for the plants is to motivate farmers to boost their production levels. As a result, he strongly advised farmers against reselling the subsidized plants, as doing so would defeat the intended purpose of encouraging increased agricultural output.
They're coming, they're buying the plants cheaply for $2 and $5, and they are going and resell it for $15 and $20. And I just want to signal that I've already indicated to the staff here at the station, the plants are not for resale. It has never been. Somehow the system has broken down and people feel that they can come and buy plants to go and resell. The plants are not for resale. The plants are intended for farmers to go and establish productive fields. And so we expect the Agronomy Division and the Extension Division to work closely to make sure that all the plants that will be distributed would go in the field.
The Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States continues to find ways to respond to the major issue of plastic pollution in member countries. On Monday, the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority launched its 2-year Recycle OECS demonstration funded by the European Union and implemented by the OECS Commission in partnership with the French Development Agency. Grenada is one of the 2 countries identified to host the Recycle project, which includes 2 major components: the development of the OECS model and the implementation of 2 demonstration projects on plastic waste collection and treatment. Minister for Climate Resilience, Honorable Karine James, says Grenada's involvement in the project can be an example for others.
Grenada is delighted to be selected for the implementation of this project, which will seek to define and develop a financially self-sustaining plastic waste management model for collecting recyclable waste for processing, and which can be adopted by other OECS member states. We hold fast to the conviction that we have a crucial role in proving that this approach of businesses to be born out of waste recycling with original approach and strong partnerships can achieve economies of scale and eventually progress to be self-financing, sustainable, and give birth to viable businesses.
Ronald Roach, Waste Management Specialist of the Sureka Unite Caribbean joint venture, presented the recycling model, which has 5 identified pillars, the technical being the first.
Those 5 pillars of the recycling model are the technical pillar, the economical pillar, the financing pillar, the institution and regulatory pillar, and the communications and social pillar. The technical pillar, it's the first step to ensure a sustainable and efficient recycling activity within the OECS countries. And it requires us to implement a selection at source of recyclable waste, meaning that we can't wait for it to reach the landfill and then try to take it out. We have to collect it before it reaches there, either at curbside or through recycling depots, and be able to get it when it's not contaminated.
Integrated Resource Management Officer at the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, Lyndon Charles, says this is a call to action for all member states.
It is for this reason, as stated earlier, it is not an afterthought, which is why we are aggressively looking at ways to address this, with major investments being made in infrastructure, personnel, and education, and with the support of our private and public partners, local government, and NGOs. Recycle OECS, Green Actions, Blue Oceans, is timely and needed today. This is exactly what it sounds like, an alarm to action, because waste diversion programs are not future thought, but items to be addressed today.
This is the Government Week in Review. Still to come, Royal Grenada Police Force promises zero tolerance towards ill behavior for the carnival season. Welcome back. Members of the Royal Grenada Police Force reminded Grenadians that the success of security and traffic measures for Spice Mass 2023 depends heavily on collaboration between civilians and officers. Woman Detective Corporal Nancy Joseph, attached to the Criminal Investigation Department, said there will be zero tolerance towards offensive weapons, drugs, and violence.
We have checkpoints or VCPs along those road areas where the not pedestrians, but the motorists, yes, you'll be checked for your driving particulars. Your vehicles will be checked as well for illegal weapons, firearms, illegal narcotics thereof, and so forth. Persons who are coming to these activities, we're asking that you leave all of these items at home when you're coming to enjoy yourselves. There is no need to come to the activity with a knife or a cutlass or anything in your possession, and once they are found, they will be confiscated and most likely returned to you at a later date. And we know that there are persons outside there who are legal firearm holders, and we're urging that those persons, you either leave it secured home in the vaults that you have provided for security, or you can leave it or drop it off at the nearest police stations on your way to the activity and then pick up at a later date. Once you get into the venue and you're about to enter, you should be expected to be frisked, and there for the same narcotics, illegal weapons, and firearms and so forth. And that is those persons who are walking in and not necessarily coming in with a transportation. And we're not zero tolerance as it relates to illegal firearms and not illegal, but offensive weapons. As well as we're not going to be allowing persons to enter the activities with drinks in bottles.
Glass bottles.
Glass bottles, sorry. The aerosol cans are not allowed.
I would have come to that point later on.
Which will be used to make the open flames. Because we know how dangerous these things can be once in a crowded venue with persons jumping and having a good time. So those things are not allowed, along with the Masanto bottles as well.
From the tire shop in Grenville to the Paradise Bridge, including the road leading into the venue, will be designated no parking zones. According to Sergeant Albert Joseph of the Eastern Division Traffic Department, all vehicles will park to the back of the pavilion with the telescope playing field reserved as a second parking area. He outlined the RGPF's entrance and parking policies.
Motorists that will be traveling from Grande Tank side and from the Eastern Main Road, from St. David side, that traffic will flow straight onto Progress Park. So we'll maintain the 2 lanes of traffic, two-way traffic, from the north and to the south. But vehicles coming from Grande Tank and the Eastern Main Road, they will proceed straight into the venue from that portion of road leading off Progress Park Public Road itself. The parking area, the general parking area, will be at the rear of the pavilion. So that is where the general parking would be allowed. Now, at the front of the venue, at the front of the pavilion itself, there is a reserve for VIPs, dignitaries, and officials alike. So that will be to the front of the pavilion. Now, if the back of the general parking area has been exhausted, then we have telescope playing field, our SAS grounds, as the reserve parking area. You know, once there is an overspill at the venue itself.
The traffic regulations will also apply for the Calypso final on August 10th at Progress Park. Members of the media on Friday were engaged with the executive members of the Royal Grenada Police Force. The executive included Commissioner of Police Don McKenzie, Deputy Commissioner Jesmond Prince. Also present were ACPs John Charles, Vanny Curwing, Randy Connaught, and John Mitchell. This is Commissioner McKenzie's first engagement with members of the media since attaining his role. Among the discussion topics were the issue of violence and crime, the RGPF's operation plan for the carnival season, and other areas of interest from media members. Commissioner McKenzie said that the RGPF is looking forward to further collaboration with members of the media for the carnival season to ensure effective information distribution to the public.
This is our first engagement, a long overdue engagement. We felt that we had to get it done. Also, with Carnival just about 2 weeks away, it was also important that as a team that we reach out to the public, let them know that. In spite of all what has been said out there, the police also has a take on the situation and what we can do to reassure them as to having a safe carnival period. You are as an important pillar in terms of the formation of the narrative that goes out there especially regarding the issue of crime. I'll just say straight off the bat that we believe that the issue of crime, there's a conversation to be had, and we welcome any engagement that has as its heart finding a solution, finding creative ways to address the issue of crime.
The RGPF promises to engage the media further. 11 groovy artists have been chosen to challenge defending monarch Crave on Friday, August 11th at the National Stadium. The semi-final held at Progress Park on Thursday saw the rendition of 26 top-tier groovy songs in a show that lasted about 4 hours, much to the enjoyment of the patrons. Making the final cut are Dash, Terror the Governor, Lil Jello, Super Flying Flint, Rooney J, Valine, Blackadan, Looney Spark and Electrify, Boise, Mr. Walkie, and Mr. Golden. We spoke with some of the finalists after their performance.
To be honest, the mindset is just go and deliver. I'm not a stranger to the stage, but the scent is different. This year is really different. You have things attached to it that not everybody would understand. I lost my grandmother, and she's one of my biggest fans. She's one of the first person I ever tell her, Granny, you go see me on stage. And the last words my grandmother spoke was greater. After that, she didn't say anything. 2 weeks after that, she passed away. So this year, it's personal. So I tell all straight up, watch me. I'm playing with none of them.
I wish more could have participated. I wish more could have made it, you know, to the semi-finals and even go as far as the finals. But you know how it is.
You're a vocalist, plus you do background vocals and so for other artists. And how do you feel about the growth of groovy music?
It's something that's indescribable. I believe that every year people keep pushing the buttons, we keep getting better, not just in the lyrical content, but you know, production of the music. And I know that we are going places. I mean, we're taking it global, I don't know.
That song was done by myself and Jason James, produced by Jason Expert James as well, Expert Studios, big up myself. That particular song has been in the archives for a couple of years, since before 473. Cherish and all the songs that I have, but it was just waiting at the right time to put it out because it's a structured song, it's not a rhythm, and it has different elements from different islands in the Caribbean that came together and made it a masterpiece.
The people was waiting for that song, the support was there for me, so and it's a party song, and tonight I think that the first song that hit a real, you know, group on a high, so I realized that they accepted. The judges were smiling also. It's live up to them too, you know, I see some of them rocking. It's a song that catchy.
This is not your first time on the semi-final stage. You've made it onto the finals before. We're seeing some very powerful groovy in 2023. What are your thoughts?
Yes, well, I just said I made it already into the groovy, and also Soca Monarch. So on the big stage is not a problem, but say for me, there is new artists, well not new, the big guns and them came back, you know? So as Terra and Boise and Dash, these guys been groovy kings, now and Crave, so I am glad now, happy. That's why I give all my energy into that groovy, because I just have that hope. I will be there, Cheryl, I will be there.
When the finger is a song close to my, you understand? It's based on a true story, based on reality, you know. I mean, the ladies have confidence. We still have time, but so far my pick middle finger, and I'm out for it.
It's a song where I have a personal experience and decided to capitalize on it, and it turned out into something that you could probably call a masterpiece. And it's doing fairly well right now, so I'm happy for that.
We take another break. When we return, Ministry of Education engages in workshop to focus on at-risk students. Welcome back. The well-being of students who are at risk of school failure or whose circumstances may lead to dropout, among other setbacks, was the focus of a workshop that was facilitated by the team from the University of the West Indies Mona campus in Jamaica. Details by Annette Moore.
The Ministry of Education, through the Grenada Education Enhancement Project, GIS, hosted an early identification system workshop from July 17th to 21st at the Spice Basket in St. George. The workshop targeted early childhood and special education officers, guidance counselors, school attendance officers, and other stakeholders. Dr. Dion Edwards-Kerr and her team are facilitating the workshop that aims to spread awareness on early identification of students who are at risk within the education system.
We are actually from UWI Mona, Kingston, Jamaica, and we are actually working on a gender-sensitive early identification system for the Ministry of Education here in Grenada. So these workshops concerns training that has to do with each component of the early identification system. And this has to do with children who are at risk of school failure, children who drop out of school, who have been retained, children who have difficulties just basically surviving the school system from kindergarten to Form 5.
The team has recommended a varied system of intervention to assess children at risk based on their unique circumstances to deal with the challenges they face as they move through the education system. Some risks identified include problems at birth, sexual abuse, problems at home and in the community, learning difficulties, and bullying, among other things. Principal of the Victoria School for Special Education, Judy Ann Auld, is delighted with the initiative.
Having early intervention and screening and developing individual plans for children at risk is something that is close to me as a special educator, and it's something that I always wanted to see be implemented in Grenada. So I'm happy now that we're taking the initiative to develop that framework so that we would ensure that we provide for all of our students and we don't have none falling through the cracks.
The purpose of the workshop is to improve stakeholders' ability to identify students who may be at physical, social, emotional, and academic risk.
If it is that at age 5, that child might have been recovering from chickenpox or measles or mumps or something, it is to be documented.
Special Education Officer, the Ministry of Education, Jenalyn St. John, is pleased with the proposal for interventions.
One of the significant topics that came up is that need to be able to identify some of the concerns from the time the child is at the hospital. That ability to be able to see whether the child is doing the things that you are expecting a child to do. The knowledge of that and being able to share that with the parent will put things in place where you can seek early intervention for the child. Hence the reason why we are doing this early identification training, so that persons can, in case the child's pulse is very weak, then you know that maybe there are certain things that you may have to be engaged in. You look at whether based on how you interact with the child, whether the child is able to make a little cry.
The concepts mentioned by St. John refer to a knowledge of the APGAR score, which is a fast way for doctors to analyze the health of newborns at 1 and 5 minutes following birth and when resuscitated. The 5 criteria for this evaluation are appearance, pulse, grimace, activity, and respiration.
When the child is ready for whether it's daycare or preschool, you have all those things, the persons involved will be aware.
School counselor Ria Jacob Hazard sees the strategies discussed as critical.
One of the things that stuck with me was one of yesterday's activity, where we had a case study of a child. And with my profession as a guidance counselor, sometimes you get information on a child and you now have to really figure out what is the risk for this child. So one of the sessions yesterday, we looked at collaboration and cooperation and trying to identify the actual and potential risk involved for our students.
Edwards Kerr highlighted a disturbing trend in the academic data reviewed.
Significant number of children, as they move from MCT 2 to MCT 4 and to the CPA, we see the grades fall dramatically. We see a lower number of children actually being able to pass these exams, and some dropping out or not making the transition to high school. And as they move through the system, the dropout and the retention increases. And so at grade 6, the dropout is very high. And by the time they get to Form 4 and 5, there's another round of dropout that takes place. And so the idea is to be able to identify them from as early as kindergarten, as early as 5 years old. Who is it that is likely to have a situation where they will struggle with the core curriculum and they will struggle behaviorally? The idea is to be able to keep them in school and keep them with services that help them to stay in school.
Edwards-Kerr shared some of the intervention strategies to assist with the situation.
There is universal screening and the progress monitoring, as well as the school-based team, ongoing assessment that allows the school system to identify as they go along where things are falling apart. Right? In addition, we are also recommending multi-sectoral partnerships.
The school-based teams are expected to identify the children and progress monitor them over time. Workshop participants expressed how beneficial the information was to them. Shirley Ann Edwards O'Neill says she particularly likes the emphasis on teamwork and shared responsibilities between sectors in serving the needs of children.
Sometimes in Grenada, collection of data, persons do not understand the concept of collection of data and the importance of working together. It made me realize that at the Child Protection Authority, we cannot collect data alone or even work alone. And it just opened our eyes to show the importance of working together as a team in terms of achieving our goals. The Child Protection Authority is truly appreciative for this opportunity. We do hope that coming out of this, that once the case management system is built, it would be shared and it would not be stuck on a desk somewhere, so that everybody can work together. And in my case, it's the best interest of our children we're looking at. And so hopefully that the intervention can be informed based on this initiative.
Education Officer for Special Needs in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, District 1, also stressed similar sentiments.
Also the need to gather this data in a structured way so that we can make decisions out of them. So that for me standing out as things that are paramount that we need to do.
Isaac thinks some of the recommendations can be quickly implemented.
We're realizing here there are many different sources and points where we can go to get information about a child when we're trying to get a bigger and more holistic picture of this child, so we can come up with a better plan to help children who need the help.
For the GIS Week in Review, I'm Annette Moore.
The art of writing CVs, cover letters, and interviewing was the focus of the first in a series of workshops organized by the Department of Youth in the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture. It was held at the Spice Basket last weekend. Details in this report.
Among the many workshops hosted by the Ministry of Education this summer was a 3-day multi-grade teaching workshop held in Carriacou from July 12th to 14th and in Grenada from the 17th to 19th at the Grenada Boys Secondary School in St. George. This workshop is expected to assist teachers and principals in schools piloting this type of teaching with additional strategies. We visited the session at the GBSS to find out more about multi-grade teaching and the goals of the workshop. Janelle Mitchell, Mathematics Curriculum Officer at the Ministry of Education, gave more details.
We've noticed as a ministry that a number of our schools, based on the size of the classes, which are relatively small, where you have some classes where you have teachers of teaching 8 students, 5 students, 6 students, and the ratio, as agreed in policy and all of that, is basically 1 teacher to 25 students. So that in itself has presented some challenges. So decisions have been made where some classes may have to be merged, and that's why we call it multi-grade teaching.
Given the challenge this may pose to some educators, the intervention is one of support.
What we've chosen to do is to support our teachers with strategies and means as to how do you embrace multi-grade teaching and how you can go about facilitating classroom learning using the process.
Mitchell says this process involves much assessment and innovative teaching. The workshop facilitators included Dr. Roger Williams, a drama specialist, who showed teachers how to use elements of drama to enhance students' interests in classes.
This is called process strategies in terms of process drama, where you engage participatory, because most times classes are boring and dull, as they would say. So we create activities that will make the students move, act, get up, make decisions, include, critique, assess, and go back to the drawing board.
He says the strategies will also include teamwork,
where each one helps the other to move along. Teamwork, which is so critical in learning, because when you go to work in the job, you don't work alone. Where you put the strong and the so-called weak to work together, and you will realize that some students will propel ahead. So in terms of that, you use drama to make the process seamless. Students would never even recognize that they are working.
Williams hopes the trained teachers will now become resource persons who will share strategies with other teachers, and that learning will become increasingly fun and effective.
The only task is preparedness. Right? So that's what I want to say. Be prepared. The teacher has to be creative, dig into his or her skills and abilities. You don't have to buy or borrow anybody's skills. What you come to the classroom with is what you're going to be selling to the students. So it's a walk in the park.
Giselle Williams-Walcott taught her IT-driven strategies, which will enable a more effective use of technology in the classroom.
My role here this week in the multi-grade workshop was basically to provide support to teachers as it relates to technology integration in the multi-grade classroom. I have been sharing with the teachers various technological tools that they can incorporate in the multi-grade classroom to help students to actually be actively engaged, to foster collaboration, to actually provide opportunities for self-paced learning, because within the multi-grade classroom, all of those would be requirements. We know that we live in a technological era, and for multi-grade to be successful, we ought to ensure that our students we are speaking the language, that we are actually using the technological tools that we actually have available to us to make learning fun, to make it meaningful and engaging for our students. So I would have focused on Lumi. That's one of the educational platforms, and in there are a variety of tools that the students were were exposed to, as well as gamification. So they were exposed to gamification to ensure that whatever content they are presenting to the students, it can be delivered to them in a gamified way, as well as for the purpose of assessment.
Principal of the Holy Spirit Catholic School in Chantemelle St. Patrick, Carrie Sabazan, is already using multi-grade teaching and has been observing the benefits, particularly during the COVID-19 period, where students learned mostly from home.
Multi-grade is part and parcel of our practice at Holy Spirit, because we are one of the very small schools in Grenada. So because of our numbers, when some of our teachers would have retired and moved on, we had no choice but to employ multi-grade as a strategy to accommodate and to ensure that all of our students receive the necessary instruction.
Sabazan is pleased with the level of success the strategy provides.
Students learn well from their peers, because sometimes their peers are able to understand and explain to them in a way that the teachers may not necessarily reach. So that's one of the benefits we get from it. A lot of peer learning takes place at Chantemelle because of that. In addition, we get a lot of cooperative learning, and we get a chance to try interesting strategies with our students to get them to be more au fait and more involved.
Sabazan notes that the school uses grouping of students with varied ability and heavily utilizes student presentations, including oral presentations, in an effort to reach each child.
In a multi-grade classroom, is mixed grade, so you might have grade 3, grade 4 together in one, you might have grade 5, grade 6 together in one. So sometimes we also have to cater for the children who have not at their particular grade level, but a little below.
She also explained the strategy for students who are functioning below their current grade level.
Because of the versatility of my teachers, we will do pullouts with them, and sometimes just for the particular lesson, particular concept, we may just have them sit with the children who are their level. And when it's another concept, another lesson, they go back to their grade level.
Sabazan is excited about the technological tools presented by Williams-Walcott.
I used BlueKit for the first time yesterday, and I'm eager to go back and try that with my teachers and my students. I like technology. I'm also looking at the way we can better marry the content expectations and really be able to implement one of the things that is a hallmark of multi-grade, where your curriculum has to be a bit more flexible to cater for everybody.
Kieran Licorice, a teacher at the Grand Roy Government School, is also enthusiastic to learn more about the multi-grade teaching strategies, which he thinks will be increasingly used going forward. Like Sabazan, he was very interested in the incorporation of technology, among other things.
Another aspect has to deal with the lesson planning, because with multi-grade we have different students from different grades with different abilities being taught at one level. So we have to be able to cater towards them in terms of the instruction. This workshop has really afforded me with some of the strategies that I can employ and ways in which I can tweak my lesson and more or less assist the student to achieve their fullest potential.
Multi-grade teaching will be piloted at the Grand Roy Government School in September 2023. Licorice thinks that while it will take effort and the ability to adapt to that teaching style, if lessons are properly planned, it will be beneficial for students.
With everything, it comes with its challenges, but we have to work to overcome those challenges, because at the end of the day, it's for the benefit for all the students.
For the GIS Week in Review, I'm Annette Moore.
We take our final break. Still to come, Ministry of Health and Wellness continues its blood drive.
At the NIS, our team proudly works to support the evolving needs of Grenadians. We have made some changes to our operations and want to keep you informed. Firstly, we are happy to introduce the new unemployment benefit. This benefit will provide an insured person with 50% of his or her former income in the case of sudden unemployment. To support this benefit and other benefits we offer, it was necessary to increase the contribution rate. The contribution rate will increase gradually each year until it reaches 16% in 2031. As always, the contribution will be split between you and your employer. The pensionable age will also increase from 60 to 65 years. This increase will also be gradually reaching age 65 in 2029. Pensioners will continue to be eligible for a pension from age 60, but will receive a reduced payment. The NIS recognizes that the prices of basic customer goods are increasing globally. Therefore, we are happy to also increase the weekly minimum pension payment by 25%. Finally, we have adjusted our survivor's benefit payment to a percentage of the age pension minimum. Widows, widowers, and dependent parents will receive 100% or $58 weekly, while children will receive 50% or $29 weekly of the deceased's pension. We are here to make the transition to these new changes as clear and simple as possible. If you have any questions on how these changes impact you and your family, please contact our new informational hotline at 440-6647 or visit www.nisgrenada.org. Thank you for allowing us to be your social security provider.
Welcome back to the government's Week in Review. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs aims to be proactive in dealing with one of the major challenges that arise during the carnival season, the significant increase in the need for blood. Medical Director at the General Hospital, Dr. Taisha Donald, highlights that the ministry is actively pursuing its blood drive.
Generally, right before carnival, we do a blood drive. So persons who are O negative out there, of course, O negative is a group that is very hard to come by. We have a few persons on island who are O negative, and we are pleading and begging. We are actually begging you to come out and donate blood to our bank so that we can, stock up the bank prior to the carnival season. So anytime from the first week in August, we would like persons to come in and start donating. We'll be having an actual drive, so we would put out some information to the public so that persons can know where to call, when to come. And again, for blood donation, we have 440-2051 and 41091. So that is the extension to the blood donation unit. And we want to ensure that particularly, we want all blood types, but particularly persons with O negative blood, we are pleading and asking if you can come in and donate within that first week of August so we can stock our blood bank.
And finally, the Grenada Food and Nutrition Council and the Climate Smart Agriculture and Rural Enterprise Program, SIAP, collaborated for another year on the Curious Little Hands in the Kitchen Summer Camp. It is designed to promote healthy eating habits among young participants. More in this report.
The program, which has been running for 3 weeks, has centered its activities on Grenada's food-based dietary guidelines, with a primary focus on encouraging a low-sodium intake and increasing the consumption of delicious fruits and vegetables in the daily diet. This initiative aims to instill in children the importance of making nutritious food choices from an early age, ensuring a healthy and well-balanced lifestyle. The camp's itinerary has been thoughtfully curated to engage and educate the young participants in a variety of ways. Activities such as devotions and sign language sessions have been integrated into the schedule to promote holistic growth and inclusivity. Theory-based cooking lessons have been imparted to provide a foundational understanding of nutrition and culinary techniques. However, the real highlight has been the hands-on experiences in the kitchen, where the young culinary enthusiasts have been able to unleash their creativity and passion for cooking. Throughout the camp, these curious little hands have been actively involved in preparing age-appropriate and child-friendly recipes that can be effortlessly recreated at home with little to no supervision. The objective is to inspire a genuine love for healthy cooking among the children, fostering a positive relationship with food and nutrition. One of the facilitators of the summer camp is Wendy Adlam.
We use fruits and vegetables in non-traditional ways. For example, we had the wax apple tart. So instead of the tart being filled with coconuts or jam, we used wax apple. We also focus on having the children use natural seasonings instead of the bottled and packaged seasonings that we have on the market. They were encouraged to drink their water. All of those are part of the dietary guidelines.
Another facilitator, Satiro Pluton, has been assigned the responsibility of guiding the students in crafting nutritious dishes. He emphasizes the significance of involving children in the culinary process.
This is a foundation of children that they will come with a positive mind, how to learn to use what we will have here, what grow up in Grenada, utilize in healthy stuff. And this they go bring the message to the school, to the family, So this is great. For every year we want to increase more and more because that's our future. We have to discipline and educate our future because what you're eating is what bringing you in life. We want to bring them healthy so they go have a healthy life and also happy.
Here is the feedback of two of the participants from Curious Little Hands in the Kitchen, Kipway Evans and Lemaya Francis.
When I got there, I was nervous and I didn't really think I would get to take part in a lot of stuff. But now that I'm here today, I get to take part in a lot of stuff and cook the banana cheese balls, the tarts, bread, and also pizza. I want to prove to my parents that I'm actually going to be a chef in the family.
When I first came, I felt kind of nervous and scared because I didn't know anybody here. But I actually like it here because I get to cook and I get to learn how to prepare my own foods. I want to prove to Mommy that I'm not useless and I don't only go in the fridge and eat, so that I can also make something.
The summer camp culminates today, Friday. In 2024, the GFNC will be rolling out its Dietary Guidelines campaign to enforce healthy eating for ultimate reduction in non-communicable diseases.
That report concludes this week's review. I am Kristen Mitchell. Thank you for viewing.